If a number a is a factor of a number b, then we call b a multiple of a. For example, the first three multiples of the number 4 are going to be 4 itself, and then 8, and then 12. Of course, then we could keep going from there just by adding 4 each time. The least common multiple of two whole numbers is going to be the smallest number that's a multiple of both of them. In this example, we're supposed to find the least common multiple of 12 and 30. Now, we start this just like we started the greatest common factor. We're going to write the prime factorizations of these two numbers. The prime factorization of 12. Okay, so we're going to use a factor tree. Write this as 3 times 4, and then 4 is 2 times 2. And so the prime factorization of 12 is 3 times 2 squared, or 2 squared times 3. Now let's look at the prime factorization of 30. Using a factor tree, we could write this as 2 times 15, and then 3 times 5. So our prime factorization looks like 2 times 3 times 5. Now that we've written out the prime factorizations, we can find the least common multiple of these two numbers in the following way. We're going to write down every prime factor that shows up in either one of these two factorizations. 2 shows up, 3 shows up, and 5 shows up. Now we're going to raise each one of those to the highest power that shows up in either one of those factorizations. So 2 is raised to the second power in the factorization of 12, and it's raised to the first power in the factorization of 30. So the highest power on 2 is 2. Now the highest power on both 3 and 5 is 1, and so they'll be raised to the first power in that prime factorization. So we're going to have 2 squared, which is 4, and then 3 times 5 is 15. And when we take 4 times 15, we're going to get 60. So our least common multiple of these two numbers is 60. Let's do a self-check. Pause the video and work this one out on your own, and then come back and check your answer. To begin finding the least common multiple of 15 and 18, we're going to factor both of these numbers. 15 factors is 3 times 5, and those are both prime numbers already, and so the prime factorization of 15 is just 3 times 5. Now let's look at 18. 18 can be written as 3 times 6, which 6 can then be factored as 2 times 3. And so our prime factors are 3 and 2 and 3. So we can write 18 as 2 times 3 to the second power. Now, to get our least common multiple of these two numbers, we're going to write down every prime factor that shows up in either one of those factorizations. So we have a 2, we have a 3, and we have a 5. Now the highest power showing up on 2 is a first power here in the factorization of 18. So the highest power on 2 here is 1. The highest power on 3 showing up is a second power showing up in the factorization of 18. So the highest power on 3 in our least common multiple is 2. And now the highest power on 5 showing up in either factorization is the first power, and so 5 will be raised to the first power in our least common multiple. Now let's work this out. We have 2 times 3 squared, which is 9, times 5. And now we'll take the 2 and the 9 and multiply those together. That gives us 18 times 5. 18 times 5 is 90, and so our solution is 90.